Hello everybody and welcome back to the Business Growth Club. This is your weekly recording, and in this week's recording we're going to be looking at how we can improve our marketing and do our marketing better. Now you may remember from last week's video I mentioned that this week we could focus on some Business Growth Club members' marketing campaigns, and we'd have a look at your current return on investment, and more importantly we'd have a look at how we can improve your return on investment. We already know from the last couple of videos that return on investment, ROI, is one of the most important foundation stones for all of marketing. Because if we don't know how much money we get back every time we spend on marketing campaigns, then we're in trouble. £500 for an advert could either be the best investment we ever make or something that we don't see a return on. So we must measure our return on investment, and we've looked at how to do that, and I gave you a free template for you to look at how you could do it, and I said let me know if you'd like me to look at some of your examples, and that's the purpose of today's video. Because what we're really interested in is not just the results you're getting, that's important, your existing return on investment, but we're looking to see how we can improve upon that. As strange as it sounds, your aim isn't really to create effective marketing pieces and campaigns. It's to create effective marketing pieces and campaigns and then beat it and then do it better. Your whole aim in marketing is not just to do something and say that either works or it doesn't work. It's to do something, determine how it works, and then do it better. Because if you do that continuous improvement model properly, your marketing literally never stops improving, which of course means your income and your profitability and the success of your business never stops increasing, which I'm sure you'll agree is quite powerful. And why is that so powerful? Because having good marketing is interesting and it's welcome. But why settle for being just average, just successful? Why don't we really challenge the boundaries, push the boundaries, and see how far we can take our business? We keep beating the control because we have to live up to our aim of being ambitious business owners. Now the phrase beating the control is an internal marketing phrase which means whatever is your best performing marketing piece, say you send out letters and you've got one particular letter that beats everything else, that's what's known as your control. And there's a whole phrase and a whole industry in marketing called beat the control. You find your best ever piece and you keep beating it. As I said before, the continuous improvement model. That's why we must measure our return on investment so we know if our new introduction beats our other introduction. That's how we live up to our aim of being ambitious and our aim to be successful, and that's how we really realise our goals. Because as I've said to you so many times before, there's many challenges in business, but none of them were more important than learning how to do marketing and sales effectively, because it's only marketing and sales that can bring new customers to your door and bring more profit to your business. Everything else will help, but there's nothing more important than that. So why don't we get started and have a look at some examples of 6 Business Growth Club members. We'll have a look at their existing marketing, but crucially from these case studies we'll see how we can improve their marketing and their return on investment. Our first of the 6 case studies is of a fitness coach, and they're currently using a blog, a promotional blog. And it's attracting 53 unique visitors, unique hits to their website every day, which is a pretty reasonable number actually, 53, that's quite impressive. However, they're only having a couple of inquiries, not very often, and crucially in the last year or so they've only had 2 new clients from the blog. Now whilst the blog doesn't technically cost you any money, it does cost you time, and time is money. So the return on investment is probably break even. A couple of clients are probably counteracting all of the time you're putting into it, but you need to improve on this. Now you're probably expecting me to say that your solution is to get more traffic, to get from 53 visitors to 530 visitors, a tenfold increase, and then you'll get 10 times as many customers. Now I do believe it's about more traffic, but I also believe it's about some other online basics, such as developing offers, data capture, and list building. What I'd recommend you do, and of course you don't just need to be a fitness coach for this to work, you just need to be in the same situation as this Business Growth Club member, so any business that's using a blog and says they have a bit of traffic but they're not really generating inquiries and sales, this is valuable information. In terms of getting more traffic, If you're already blogging, you need to look at guest blogging. If you're a fitness coach, you need to go out there and look at every website you imagine your target market, people who are trying to lose weight. Maybe it's professional athletes you work with, maybe it's overweight people who just want to get themselves back into shape, maybe it's young people who are developing in athletics, whatever it happens to be. Find where your target market, those ideal customers, are going. Find people with blogs who already talk to those people. Research their blog and ask if you can do a guest post. Then you will generate, in turn, when people check you out as you're the author and you give them a link to your blog in the byline, they will arrive at your blog. That's the classic way of getting more visitors to your blog. It's not about blogging harder or doing better blog posts. Of course, all of that will help. But really, you need to be guest blogging on other people's blogs where your target market is. Secondly, and quite similarly, you can look at something known as article marketing. This is another classic way of driving traffic to your blog. Your blog post can easily be turned into articles, and then you again find every website that has information that is relevant to your target market. So your target market might be marathon runners or fell runners, and they'll have websites that will have resources or information, and you can publish articles on those websites. All you need to do here is research your target market, see where they're going. You probably, more often than not, know all of these websites anyway because you're in the industry, and just contact the web people who are maintaining these websites and submit good content. Most people's websites like this thrive on free content from experts, and you are an expert submitting your information. So that combination of guest blogging and article marketing is a very powerful way of people reading your guest blogs and your articles, finding out who you are, visiting your blog, and you've got more traffic. Developing it, you could also look at social media promotion, how you can start to promote, say you're a fitness coach in a local area, you can start to target people in the local area, you'll get followings there, and you can broadcast your messages, and that's a very proven way of getting people onto your blog. You'll already have people following you on social media if you're using it. Get them onto your blog. There are plugins, I've mentioned this one before with WordPress, if you're using a WordPress blog, such as Tweet Old Post, where it will go onto your website and several times a day it will automatically tweet your old posts. So that's another tactic. The next idea is arguably the most complicated but the most powerful, and it's online advertising. We will be doing a video in a few weeks' time on online advertising, but just for now I'll explain that online advertising is when you see all of your banners and all of your videos, display advertising as it's known, appearing on targeted websites. Now, you can do this via your pay-per-click account on Google, or you can find other people who are advertising brokers, online display advertising brokers, in the same way that you had old-fashioned advertising brokers for billboards or newspapers or radio or TV. It's much more cost-effective than any of those old-fashioned media. And what you do is you say, I want whatever your target market is. So it might be health and fitness websites, it might be websites where you know people, such as, say your target is women of a certain age who are looking to get in shape. You'll find the websites that they go to. Essentially, wherever you believe your target market goes, you could do the guest blogging, the article marketing, and the online advertising. As I say, we'll do a future video on how to do that exactly. But that's just a basic one now. And of course you'll get more traffic if you do the list building activity I'm about to talk about, because that will generate more traffic naturally. So the second stage, once you've got more traffic, because it's not just about more traffic, is to start having offers so you can build a relationship with these people and so you can pull them in. Two types of offers. There's the offer for data capture. So you might run one of your blogs, and every now and again, I would say 1 in 4 or 1 in 5, you give away a little bit extra. So you might do a blog on fitness training, and you've done 3 or 4 this month, and in the final one, you say a little bit about sports nutrition, so the best diet to go on to help your exercise. And then you'll say, this is just the basics. I've actually put together a diet plan that anybody can use, 7 days worth of diet planning, and if you enter your details below, I'll send you a copy. Classic data capture, 2-step marketing, I talk about this all the time. Then of course they're into your sales funnel, and you do your email marketing and your follow-up. Then you've got more followers, so in future that'll have more traffic. The second offer is quite simple. You're actually trying to sell them something. So again, to use the sports nutrition example, you could decide to do data capture as an offer, or you might decide to say to them, here's a little bit of information about sports nutrition. If you want to know more about our services, click here. So that takes them to a landing page on your website where you talk all about how you help people in diet planning, or you make them a direct offer there and then on the blog. There's no reason why you can't do this. You can have a response form, a telephone number, an email address, where you make them an offer. A simple, straightforward offer. It might be come forward for your first session of exercise fitness coaching, and we'll do a diet plan at the same time. It might be a diet planning session. Whatever it is you sell, the sort of offers you make. One of the biggest problems with blogs is, whilst they're brilliant at giving away information, and that's the whole purpose, they're sometimes not brilliant at actually, number one, capturing the details of the readers so you can market to them in the future, because they must be interested, otherwise it wouldn't be on your blog. And they're also not very good at making sales, because they tend to give away a little bit of information, and what happens is the person reading it says, I want to know more, but you've got to give them an offer. To give you an example, on my own blog, I generally have a bit of a rule that every month or so I will make people an offer. It might be something onto a webinar so I can then promote services to them. It might be a free report so I know who's really interested and I can then make them an offer. It might just be a tender session or send a webinar or apply for a consultation, because I know I have regular visitors, and you look like you're getting regular visitors as well, who are finding you and they're interested, but they're left wanting more. And making those direct offers is a way that you can give them more. If they're reading your blog about sports nutrition for exercise, they want to go to the next level, and you've got to give them that chance, that opportunity. So blogs are great, but they're the challenges, and there's just some ways that you can overcome them. So hopefully that'll help people who are looking at how they can improve their blog. Our second case study is an heating engineer who's using a small advert in the Yellow Pages. Now, they can't track exactly how many inquiries they've had, but we know they've had plenty of inquiries, but a lot of them are fluff as they've described them. Essentially, they were time wasters or people just looking for a cheap price. But basically this advert is giving you £21,000 a year from various sized jobs. So there's been some big jobs, some small jobs, but £21,000 has been generated from this one Yellow Pages advert, which was about £1,600. So you can see there, the return on investment is very profitable. You're basically making nearly £20,000 profit. Now, nearly 20,000 is brilliant, but how do we make that better? Now, the great opportunity with Yellow Pages advertising is there's some very basic rules about Yellow Pages advertising, which we know when followed produce very effective adverts that outperform all the others. However, 99% of businesses don't actually follow these basics. So that gives you a wonderful opportunity, because most people are doing it badly. So if you do it just following the basics, you'll actually be very advanced because everyone else isn't doing the basics. So let's have a look at the Yellow Pages basics. So if you are any business using the Yellow Pages, these are tactics you can use which I'll guarantee will significantly increase the effectiveness of your advert. The first one is the placement. Whatever the size of your category, whether it's 1 page or 10 pages, you need to be near the front. That's simple. We know something's true about people who look up the Yellow Pages. We know that they want to respond very, very quickly. They pick up the phone pretty much straight away. They respond to your advert and they get on with it. They're not messing around. You tend to get pretty decent response rates. That means they will actually pick the first somebody they come across, or the first couple of people they come across, because they're making a quick, immediate decision. You need to be in the front. That's why you see so many companies called A1 such and such or AB such and such. If you're serious about the Yellow Pages and you're making 20,000+ a year, and I think we could probably double or triple that if you follow these basics, then you need to consider what the name of the business is. Don't forget, your trading name could be different. It could be that your trading name is your normal name, but you make your official name AB, then your trading name. As I say, it sounds drastic, but if you're serious about Yellow Pages advertising, you've got to be serious about being at the front of your category. The next one is size. This works on the very basic idea that the bigger something is, the more likely somebody is to look at it. And the biggest that something is, the most likely people are to look at it. So if I'm on a page of Yellow Pages adverts and yours is the biggest, we know statistically that people will look at yours more than they'll look at anybody else's. However, that doesn't mean that you need to buy a full page advert. You just need to be bigger than everybody else's. So if everybody else's is 3 centimetres by 2 centimetres, you just need to be a centimetre bigger than theirs. Of course, if you are in a very competitive category, the chances are you'll have to go much bigger than if it's a less competitive category. But it doesn't really matter, the maths are still the same. You need to be a little bit bigger. We know that the biggest ads get looked at. We know the ads at the front get looked at more than towards the back of a category. So let's have the biggest ad we can at the front of a category. You see where I'm coming from. I said this was very basic, but you open the Yellow Pages and people aren't following these rules. What gets more complicated is the design of the advert. Most people make the mistake of running very bad adverts because they don't comply with the basics of advertising. You, by now, having listened to all what I say in the Business Growth Club, know that you need to do your advertising and your marketing properly. That means starting with a headline, a compelling headline. No advert should ever run with a headline. In the Yellow Pages, all too often, you'll see businesses that run as the headline their company logo and their company name. That's awful. That is never going to work. A compelling headline, such as Heating Engineers, do you need XYZ, the services you offer, pulling people in? Have a headline. USP, talk about the USPs, the stuff that makes you different. Your core benefits. Mention the guarantees. We talk about this so often, how important guarantees are, and they're more important for trades than any other business because it's a trust industry. Mention your testimonials. How many adverts do you see in the Yellow Pages that have Mrs. Smith and Mr. Smith from Greenwich where they're saying how wonderful you are? And then a direct response offer. If applicable, make them an offer to respond to your ad now. Now, all of this is the sort of stuff I'd tell you to do if you were running an advert in the trade press or in the newspaper. The Yellow Pages is exactly the same. Don't fall into the trap of believing the Yellow Pages is different to any other type of advertising. Do it properly. Do the stuff I've just mentioned there and you'll have a much better advert. More advanced tactics might be location. A lot of people ask me, I do very well in Surrey's version of the Yellow Pages. Should I branch out to the other local areas? The answer is yes and no. If you can do business in the other areas, obviously it makes sense to use those Yellow Pages. If you just want to be, located in Surrey and you don't want to move any further than Surrey, then obviously you wouldn't advertise anywhere else. But if you can take business from other areas, you're happy with that drive time, then you should. However, remember, you must have a local address to that area and a local phone number. Doesn't mean you have to live there. You can hire these addresses. You know that. If you're looking for contacts to do that, I can provide those details. But you can rent addresses and you can have a phone number that's whatever the dialing code is for that local area for just a couple of pounds a month. This isn't expensive, but that's very crucial. We know from Yellow Pages advertising that unless you're a national company with a headquarters, if you are a local business, you have to be most local to that Yellow Pages. So if it is a certain area's Yellow Pages, you have to be local to that. So if you do want to branch out and say it works brilliantly in this Yellow Pages, what about the one in the neighbouring town or city? Then make sure you've got the local address and phone number. All too often I've seen people do this and they've had their old address, their primary address and their primary phone number. And responses plummet. People want a local person. That's why they're looking at the Yellow Pages. Rightly or wrongly, you might not believe that's important, but the customer believes it's important. Another advanced tactic is to actually focus on one niche service. Very often in the Yellow Pages, people run continuous lists of everything they do. And sometimes you look at some of these adverts and it looks like they do more than you could possibly imagine within their category. Less is more. You know this now about marketing. Less is more. So if you offer one core service, just advertise that one core service. You will find better results than if you list everything. And a very advanced tactic could actually be that you place 2 or 3 adverts if you have 2 or 3 core services, following all of the advice we've just given you on how to create an ad, the size of it and where to place it. So if you offer services where you paint cars and you paint vans and you paint lorries, then you could run an advert on each one of those. Do you need your car painting? Do you need your van painting? Do you need your lorry painting? And you focus on your niche that way. It's a more advanced tactic, but that's how you get even more out of Yellow Pages. Finally, and absolutely crucially, you wouldn't believe how difficult it is to get hold of some of the people in the Yellow Pages. Don't make this mistake. Rule number 1 is to have an 0800 number if you're a trade. That will increase response rates a great deal. Secondly, make sure your telephone is always answered. Telephone answering is absolutely crucial. It's incredible how many people you can call in the Yellow Pages where they're paying good money to be in there and it just goes to answer phone, or worse still, it just rings out. Make sure somebody always answers the telephone. I've talked about this before. There are services out there where people will answer your telephone for you. You've got an outsourced reception. If you're a tradesperson or whatever and you're busy and you can't always field your calls, it's much better that they do it for you. Finally, the speed of response. We know that people in the Yellow Pages are highly qualified. When they ring somebody, they generally speaking go ahead, they place an order, they do the work. They're looking for speed. As was once famously said, speed stuns, so make sure you stun people with your speed of response. So that's some ideas of how, with something as basic as Yellow Pages, when you're already making £20,000 a year, how you can continuously improve by having a better placed advert, a better size advert, an advert that complies to the rules of advertising, an advert that focuses on a niche. You could have multiple niche adverts and you make it really easy to respond, and you have different locations if applicable. That's how we would take £20,000 from Yellow Pages to making more like £100,000. £20,000 is nice, £100,000 is even better. Now, what we are actually doing with these case studies, as I've said, these are genuine Business Growth Club members, and whilst I'm making my response to them quite generic, just because I want to show you what somebody's doing, but I also want to see how that would work for every type of business, what I am doing is I'm working with these 6 people privately, and I've actually gone into a lot more detail, and I've put some quite specific changes in place, and in about 6 months' time or whatever, we'll be looking at a video of how these improvements have made a difference to their marketing. So we'll be looking at some of these tactics, which I'll make very specific to the businesses involved. In a few months' time, 6 months or whatever, however long it takes to get results, we'll actually see how these changes have worked. However, for everybody listening to this who's not one of these case studies, if I'm saying something here which is chiming with you and you're saying, oh, that would work for me, that's a good idea for me, make sure straight after this video you take action. Write down the good ideas I've given you that you'd like to take up, and on Monday morning, if not today, then go and do it. So make sure you take action, because it's only action that will give you results. Our third case study is very common, and I know from the questions you asked me as members that this is quite a common scenario. We've got a solicitor, they're a local solicitor in general practice, so they provide a range of services. They're more focused on business services than their services for the general public, so they're commercial solicitors, if you will. And they're sending general letters to businesses listing their services. These are what I call "May I introduce myself" letters. They're the sort of letters you send where they say, "Dear Mr. Business Owner, we're in this area of town, we've got this much experience, we do this service, that service, the other service, and if you ever need us, please get in touch with us." There's nothing wrong with these letters, they can be quite effective, but they're quite general. Lots of people do these. This particular firm is sending out 10 a week, so that's, assuming you're doing it during Christmas, 520 a year, so 500 a year. They don't know exactly, but they tell me they're getting basically about 1 call a month. But that's not really so important. They're only getting 2 clients a year. Now, the cost of these letters is about £390 a year. So those 2 clients are much exceeding that £400-ish that it's costing them. So it is successful, and they're happy with the results. And one of the some things they say is there's not much administration involved because it's only 10 letters a week and a couple of clients a year. But they recognise it could be much, much better. Let's have a look at how we make it much, much better. Firstly, and I see this mistake a million times over with small business marketing and advertising, it's just not enough. The numbers are too small. What's happening is we're sending 10 a week. Now, if there's something that's true of marketing, it's that it's very, very, very predictable. Marketing tends to predict itself time and time again. It's very difficult to get different results with marketing. Of course, you have peaks and troughs depending on certain factors, but basically, over a medium term, marketing is highly predictable. So from 520 letters a year, you get 12 responses and 2 sales. So if we break that down a little bit more, we know 43 letters are required to generate 1 qualified inquiry, and we know 260 letters are required to make a sale. Now, if I asked you, can your firm handle 6 inquiries a week and 1 new customer a week? And you say yes, and I'm assuming you can because that's well within anybody's capacity, then just send 260 a week, not 10. I know this sounds painfully obvious, but you've got quite predictable results there. Over the course of a year, and you've been doing this for several years, you're sending 10 every week to general businesses, you're getting 12 responses, you're getting 2 sales. We'll just change the numbers. You're sending this to a general list of businesses, so it's not even that you can exhaust your market. Your target market is huge in your local area. This area happens to be Leeds, which is a massively big business area. But even if you were in Carlisle or Devon or somewhere really small, there's still a huge number of businesses for you to go at. So instead of sending 10 a week, send 260 a week. More administration, it's more difficult to handle, I accept, but if you can get one client every single week, I'm sure you'll be happy. Marketing is predictable. Use that predictability in your favour. You know that you send 260 letters at a cost of say £150, you generate another customer. That's a good ratio. So just do more. Now, some more advanced ideas could be to use niche marketing. At the minute, you're sending a general letter advertising general services to general businesses, and this is what 99% of businesses do when they first do their marketing. I would say either focus on a general list of services that you offer, but focus on a certain audience. Say we've developed a reputation of working with architects. Of course, it doesn't need to be architects, it just needs to be a group that you would like to work with. For classic target marketing, who most wants your services, who are most reachable, who can most afford them. It might be architects, it might be fitness coaches, it might be the heating engineer we've just mentioned, it might be the web designer we're just about to look at. Whatever, the types of businesses you would like to work with. So you could say we're solicitors who help people like you. Or you can go the other way and maintain it for general businesses, but focus on just one of your services. Say HR law, which I know is very popular and very much a positive income stream for you. You could focus on that area. Whatever business you're in out there, you could say, well, this is a service we sell lots of, the classic 80-20. So that's how you could make it more effective. Now, all direct mail can be improved by doing telemarketing follow-up. You could either get somebody in your office to do it, you could do it yourself, you could get a third-party telemarketing company, but if you're sending out a reliable number of letters, then telephone follow-up can be very effective. The next idea is second and third mailings, second and third notices as I call them. One mistake people often make is they'll only send a letter to one business or one customer once. The prospect receives one letter. We know that direct mail can be significantly increased by sending a second notice or a third notice. They can be literally the same letter, but pretty much saying, I sent you this, but do you want to respond? Or you can send them a slightly different letter. But you'll get much better results if you hit somebody twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, whatever. A multiple number of times, you'll generally find that's more effective. If you were to email, say, 1,000 businesses a year, or just 330 businesses, so a third of that, but you were to send those 350 businesses 3 letters, not 1 letter, compared to the 1 letter to those 1,000 businesses, generally, more often than not, you'll get much better results by sending those 330 businesses the 3 letters. So for the same spend, focusing on a small number of people will work, especially if it's a niche offer or a niche service. Finally, changing the mailing. Maybe you could actually develop something that's a little bit more interesting, dare I say, than may I introduce myself. Direct response offers, free giveaways, more testimonials, more guarantees, better headlines, just all of the stuff we know that makes advertising and marketing work, so you could improve on your letter. So if we bring all of that together, you're going to be sending more letters, the letters are going to be better written, they'll be more targeted, you're going to follow them up on the telephone, you're going to send multiple mailings. That's quite a compelling combination. What's happened here is what often happens with small business marketing. We've actually taken a campaign which has been fairly small and unambitious, and we've said, no, we're going to do it really properly, and we're going to be ambitious about it, and we're going to do it seriously. And you go from getting a couple of clients a year to 50 clients, 100 clients a year. So that's how I'd improve direct mail. An awful lot of you out there listening to this will be sending letters, and this should be a very useful case study for you. All of the advice I've just given you there works for that solicitor, but it works for just about anybody. So that's my advice to you. The fourth case study is a web designer who attends networking events. I won't mention the name of the networking group, but it's one of these ones that meets once a week. So you go to 50 meetings a year, and the cost is, you're telling me, £500 for membership. I actually believe when we factor in the cost of breakfast, the cost of travel, and the cost of your time attending, it's more like £4,000 a year. But anyway, the results are 5 or 6 websites a year from the group, and that's giving you an income of £11,000, so sort of £2,000 a website on average. So you're saying the cost 500. I actually think if we do full costing, it's more like 4,000, 11,000 income. That's still good. What could we do to improve this? Unfortunately, and I don't want to lie to you, I want to give you the truth here. Anybody who's watching this, who's doing the networking, needs to listen to this. Unfortunately, networking can't be extrapolated in the way that direct mail or advertising can be. As you've seen with direct mail, in an area, even in a small area such as Newcastle, there's about 40,000 businesses. So if you're sending 10 letters a week, you can send 500 letters a week, and it'll still take you a great length of time to have contacted those 40,000 people. Networking doesn't quite work like that, because you can't just keep inventing other networking groups. Yes, you could try putting a team member in a group, so they'll go in another group. You can try attending similar networking groups, but one thing we know with ROI is that, generally speaking, if you attend different networking groups, you get massively different results. It's a little bit like running a totally different advert for a totally different niche and a totally different medium. It's not the same as running Yellow Pages adverts, but instead of it being in the one part of London, Brixton Yellow Pages, the other part of London, Putney Yellow Pages, it's not like that. It's totally different. So there are challenges. As I say, look at putting someone else in a group, look at attending similar groups, but it is more limited networking than other forms of marketing. You can optimize your networking. What's really important with networking is to get appointments with people outside of a room. In networking, you meet lots of people, you meet them superficially, and it tends to be a small exchange, a very brief exchange. Try and get those meetings with people, those one-to-one contacts, those private contacts outside of a meeting. Also in your networking, don't be looking at making just first-party sales. You could be looking at referral partners. As a web designer, you might find an introduction to somebody like other marketing people or an advertising agency where they don't do websites but their clients are interested. That might be more effective. Finally, in networking, you can often talk about the people you want to do business with, but try very specific requests. I would love to get into X council or X company. That can optimize your networking. So networking isn't as easy to improve as other ideas, but as you can see, even with something that's limited, there's still a lot you can do to get better results. Never settle for results you're currently getting in marketing. It's always true that you can always be doing better. Our 5th case study is absolutely brilliant. I'm so glad this member contacted us and let us use this example, because so many of you will resonate with this. It's a local furniture store, it's a retail store, a sort of shop, a family-run business, and they run a weekly advert in the local newspaper. They don't know what the impact is because it's hard to measure, and I can empathise with that, but they do know that when they stop running the advert, on the rare occasions they have, footfall drops. So after a couple of weeks of not running the advert, less people come into the shop. When you run it, more people come into the shop, so you're kind of assuming that's because of the advertisement, and I'll agree with you on that. You're paying £438 a week for a half-page advert. You don't know the return on investment, because I understand where you're coming from. Retail is difficult to measure return on investment, a lot more difficult than other areas. But let's look what you can do. Firstly, and this is true of all marketing, especially advertising, but really, really especially local newspaper advertising, negotiate the price. £438 is too much for a half-paid advert in any newspaper. It's too much for a local newspaper. Negotiate the price, especially if you're going to be advertising with them over a long period of time. You're doing it every week, so you could easily commit to the next 10 advertisements or the next year's advertisements. I wouldn't normally recommend that, because I believe you should test your advertising and keep changing it. But if you're committed to doing it, well, you at least might do a long-term contract and get the results out of that. Secondly, the size of the advert. For £438, you should be at least getting a full page advert. So you might say to them, I'll pay £438, but I want a full page one. Trust me, you can negotiate with advertising reps. You can negotiate with most salespeople in the world, but advertising people really can be. Trust me, I do it all the time. You can get significantly better results. Finally, the placement. You might say I want a full page, full colour advert, but instead of being on page 30, I want it on page 8. We know the first 8 pages or the final 8 pages in the newspaper work better than being in the middle. So that's different if you're advertising in the business section or something. But generally speaking, if you're just a normal retail store, people read more towards the beginning and more towards the end. I don't know why, but that's just a classically proven tactic. And if it's proven to work, well, who are we to argue with that? Secondly, you need to use a tracking code. This means, number one, you can track how well your advert's doing, but secondly, and more importantly, it makes people respond. It makes it easier to respond and more people respond. You can have a simple voucher where you can just have a cutout bit at the end of the sort of coupon at the end of the advert, or you can give people a voucher code, so it could be AB10 or whatever. You can have a phone number response which is tracked, so you have a phone number that's just for calls from the advertisement, then you'll know every time that phone calls it's that person. You can have a web page that's just set up for that one. You can have the more modern responses such as text back, so those ones where it says text furniture to 55545. The QR code, that stands for quick response code, that's the funny little barcode you have that people scan with their iPhone and look it up. Or just normal track offers. So when people come in, you make them specific offers in the newspaper, and people come into your store and say, oh, I read in the newspaper the buy one get one free rocking chairs or whatever, and you've made them an offer and you know where they're coming from. I know in retail it's more difficult to track responses than any other industry because of a footfall nature, and people come in and you don't necessarily take the details in the way that you would if you're a solicitor signing up a new client. But I think tracking codes direct response will help a lot. A more advanced tactic is to run more focused campaigns. So maybe have seasonal promotions. So if you're running the same advert every single week, people will naturally see your advert and they've seen it before. So even if they're interested, you can't see the same advert every single week and not get a bit bored. So I would maybe have at the very least 12 offers. So you have a January offer, a February offer, a March offer, and change those offers on a regular basis. This way your advert becomes more interesting and people are more likely to respond. Finally, add all of the marketing DNA, as I call it, that we've talked about already. Having a headline, having USPs, using core benefits, using social proof of testimonials, using guarantees, using direct response tactics, making people an offer. The stuff that's simple, but it works. Most people don't do it, but we know when people do it, they get much better results. So do the basics and improve your advert. The final case study, again, is a very interesting case study. It's about joint ventures. We've got somebody who's a copywriter. So that's somebody who writes for marketing copy the words and the slogans that go to marketing, and they do that for various media pieces. However, they've realised they get lots of referrals from marketing agencies, so they've created some joint venture marketing aimed at marketing agencies. So you do get plumbers and solicitors coming to you saying, can you write the copy for our advert or our website or whatever, but you've realised that marketing agencies give you continuous work for all of their clients. So you want to set up a joint venture. A joint venture is simply when somebody promotes your business and gives you business, and you might do that on a quid pro quo basis. I'll do it for you, you do it for me, or you might do it on an introducer's fee basis. You're working on an introducer's fee basis, so basically if a marketing agency gives you work, you give them a slight cut. So that means that whilst you're doing it relatively casually at the minute, you always have a positive return on investment because you only pay when you get a piece of work. So it's working at the minute, but how could you do it better? Well, that's a brilliant sort of question, and you definitely can be doing it better. Joint ventures are just about the most overlooked tactic in all of marketing. I often tell people to do joint ventures along with a load of other marketing tactics, and they do all the other ones such as adverts and online and websites and all of this sort of stuff, and they ignore the joint venture. And I say why, and they say, oh I don't know, I sat down with somebody and they said they were keen but it never came to anything. The biggest mistake you can make is letting bad joint ventures affect you. The trouble is with joint ventures, you generally have to sit down with about 10 people before one of them accepts your proposal and makes it work. And a lot of people do a couple of meetings and give up. I've found across a lot of different sectors that you have to sit down with 10 people to get one result, which sounds too much. However, that's not like sitting down with 10 potential customers only to make one sale. These people might give you 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 jobs a year, or every couple of years, so they're really worth the investment. So I would say stick at it, but widen the search. Know that you're going to sit down with 10 people, so you could aim to sit down with 1 or 2 of them every week, and then every 5 or 10 weeks you have a new person who's going to give you constant reoccurring work. And you can not just focus on marketing agencies, advertising agencies, web designers, printers, design studios, branding agencies, photographers. Anyone in the marketing world that doesn't write copy could work with you. More advanced, I wouldn't just write something that's advertising the fact that you write copy. I would actually make it more interesting and more compelling. Write about your profile, your core benefits, and also if you're advertising to marketing people, beat them at their own game. So have themes in your marketing when you're promoting your joint ventures and you're trying to get an appointment, where you almost say, if it's an advertising agency you're going for, you kind of do some copy that's mimicking some maybe 1960s Madison Avenue type advertisements, for classic ones, for sort of Mad Men type ones. So maybe you can have a bit of an interesting theme that will be opened. Most people, when they do joint ventures, they'll send a load of people letters, say they want to work with architects, so they send a load of letters to architects, but they don't make them an offer, or they just introduce themselves. They don't tell them about their profile, their core benefits, all of the marketing information you would tell your customers, all of the information of why buy me. You know, these joint venture people are the same as your customers, so I would look at doing that. Finally, if it is something like an ad agency or a web designer, somebody who give you an awful lot of work, I would look at what you're offering them. You could easily offer them a free trial, which could work very effectively indeed. So you could say, give me one job and I'll show you how quickly I can turn around your copy. Say it's for a web designer. Web designers spend all day waiting for copy for their clients, and it really slows down their campaigns. If you can say, I'll do it for you, you can refer the work to me, give them a free trial, turn it around incredibly quickly, they'll see the benefits of working with you. So I would definitely be looking at free trials. It's worth it for people who can give you 10, 20, 30 referrals a year or whatever. Or change your business model a little bit. So look at retainers, for instance. So instead of doing something by the job, you could actually look at them putting you on a retainer, so you're there disposable for an agreed amount. So you're changing their approach. They may have been approached by copywriters before, but you're doing better marketing that's more about you and your benefits, and you're offering them a different type of business model. But stick at it with joint ventures. Know that 10 people to get one joint venture is about right. A much lower hit rate than you will with customers. But when you get them that are really working, you'll do incredibly well. And if you sit down with just one person a week, in a year's time you'll have about 5 partnerships of people sending you routine, regular work, which is really quite powerful. So joint ventures, I think that's how you'd improve your approach. So that brings us to the end of today's recording. So, as I said in the beginning, don't worry if your marketing is currently bad, good, or average. It doesn't really matter. What matters is beating the control. Remember I said that you have a control, the one that works, and you always try and beat it. So you see your current results as a target, something on which you continuously improve upon, and something which you continuously increase the return on investment and the effectiveness. So that's how 6 sort of fairly regular, fairly random Business Growth Club members could improve their marketing. And I'm sure for everybody listening to this, you're probably doing at least one of those marketing tactics, if not 2 or 3 of them. And you can see how you can follow my advice there and implement that advice, and you'll get some great results. As always, any questions you have from anything I've mentioned, or if you're not quite sure how it will apply to your business, then do submit those questions and we'll answer them either directly to you or during the webinar. So that's it for today's recording. I hope it's been useful. Thank you very much for listening. Have a fantastic week in business, and I'll speak to you again in a week's time. Goodbye for now.